Hey folks, it's Rob Flux here with another Sunday session, and today we're going to be talking about mental toughness and I guess the ability to overcome, endure, and push through any obstacle or challenge that you've actually got in order to do that. In order to do that, I've got a very special guest today, Mr. Robb Evans, personal coach, high performance mental coach, and host of 2 podcasts, mate. So. Mate, you're a very, very busy boy, and it's going to help if I actually put your name on the screen and everyone know who you are. Mate, welcome aboard.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and share a message with your audience, which is quite large.
Mate, thank you, mate. Appreciate it. So, firstly, tell us a little bit about who is Robb Evans. For those who haven't actually come across you, I guess you've got, a few different niches that you kind of play in, but tell us a bit about yourself.
So I guess where my story started was as a chartered accountant. I did that for 19 years and realized how that was just really unfulfilling for me and boring. So I decided that I would change career paths, and I'd always had a passion for my health, my wellness, my fitness. So I decided to open up a personal training studio and coaching business that way. And so I've been doing that full time this is my 16th year now. And I'm so proud of myself for having the courage to make the decision to do it, because I'm doing things now that on the other side of the decision to change, I could never have even conceived the things that I'd be doing now if I had to create my wildest dreams. I just wouldn't have been able to do it. And so the way that I work with clients, I work with clients all around the world, really coaching them around how to achieve their life strategies, I suppose, but I do it through health, wellness, fitness, nutrition, and mindset, and the big one, accountability. So I'm based in Melbourne, in Australia here. I have a facility that people come to, but I also love the remote coaching that I do with people around the world, because you can really tap into what's going on up here as we're about to get into for mental toughness.
Absolutely. Now, I want to do a small distinction on terminology, because a lot of people in our industry, think that coaching and mentoring are very, very similar. So I just want to kind of break that out. Coaching is very much about the mental headspace and getting yourself in the right framework to actually go and take action. Now, there could be all sorts of things that stop you from taking action. They could be fear of failure, fear of success, limiting beliefs, analysis paralysis, a whole bunch of mental roadblocks that we put in front of ourselves. Then mentorship is the skill side of things. So learning how to do the actual thing that you actually want to do. So the idea being the coach gets you to take action, and then the mentor makes sure it's the right action. Now, you're very much, kind of playing in the coaching space from a headspace, but also a little bit from a mentorship, from the skills in the fitness and the health and nutrition and that sort of thing. So you kind of cross a little bit of both boundaries.
Yeah, look, I want to make sure that people are set up with the right skills that they can have for the rest of their life. So I don't do, for instance, like diets or anything like that. I'm very big on technique as well, and really understanding what's going on for the individual so that we can tailor something for them, because every single person's different. So like we were sharing before, like the physical challenges that you go through with your knees and back and everything. So obviously a program for you is going to be very different to somebody that is a Winter Olympian downhill mogul skier, right? They're going to be fundamentally different. So what I want to do is really understand where somebody is at right now. Where do they want to get to? What's that gap? How do we close that gap as quickly as possible, but at a speed that they can handle so that they can do it for the rest of their life, rather than, hey, let's whack you hard for 4 weeks and see how you go. And it's like, okay, off you go. Let's let you do it on your own now. We need to make sure that we're giving people sustainable skills.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of great programs out there where you can go get that sugar hit and get that motivation for a weekend, and then you have to go out and do things on your own reconnaissance. What you're trying to do is actually give them the skills that they can do that ongoing and consistently for life.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm sure we all can think of those weekend things that you just spoke about, where there's a lot of forced motivation upon you, and you can walk away from that with being motivated and pumped up. But the problem is motivation is a bit like sunscreen. As soon as you jump in the shower, it washes off. And, I hear people say, you've got to take all this massive action and, do all this stuff. But the reality is most people cannot take massive action. And I would rather people take little bits of action every single day, but do those things consistently forever to get the massive outcome. It may take years. Like I was talking on my own podcast today about how there are some weaknesses that I had that have probably taken literally 40 years for me to turn into a superpower. But does that matter? I'm living my best life now and I've gotten there. Maybe I've gone a lot slower than a lot of other people, but I'm very consistent and I'm there. And that's
1% better every single day, regularly, consistently. So James Clear, the author of Atomic Habits, talks about quite often we make these huge commitments. Hey, I want 6-pack abs, right? And after a couple of weeks of going to the gym, we kind of fall out of the habit.
Yeah.
But what he says is to take micro commitments. So I'm going to commit every single day to do something that I know I can achieve. I'm going to put my gym shoes on. If I put my gym shoes on, I'm going to feel silly walking around the house. And so chances are I'm actually going to go to the gym, right? We do something that's within our reach, then that will build the habit. And then from there, we can then go, well, okay, I'm going to do 6 sit-ups or 10 sit-ups or small incremental improvements every single day gets us where we want to go.
Absolutely. I say some people can do a whole lot all at once, but most people can't. So I say, well, where are you right now? Like if I use water as an example. So the average adult should be drinking about 2.6 liters of water. Most people who are listening to this will not be getting anywhere near that. And most people struggle to even drink one of these, which is 800 mils. So I say, okay, if you're drinking, see what I did there? If you're drinking 600 mils a day, and I say, okay, let's take it to this. This is 800 mils. Let's do that for 7 days in a row and see how that felt. And then most people will either be after a few days just naturally say, oh yeah, I'm getting in a liter now. I say, okay, fantastic. If people get to the end of the week and say, oh, that was so hard. Did you get it every day? No, I didn't. Okay, go again until you get 800 mils. And then it's like, all right, well, let's make it now, add an extra cup full, which is 250 mils. So let's do, or make it a liter. So let's get in a liter of water now. And a lot of drink bottles come in a liter form now. So let's do one of those a day. Do that for 7 days. And then all of a sudden you find that, well, actually now I'm doing 1.5. It's so easy. I can't believe I only used to drink 600 mils. And then that's just a really simple example. But we do that with then, or what's that next thing? Let's get you moving a little bit more. How many average steps are you moving to? Oh, about 5,000. All right. Well, ideally we want to be doing 10, but let's move you to 6 straight away.
Yeah, I have to complain about that 10,000 step thing because my wife, myself and my partner go for a walk. She's got little legs. She gets 10,000 steps, and I'm at like 7,000. It's not fair, mate.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've got little legs, so my 10,000 accumulate a little bit quicker too.
Yeah, so I have to walk a few more laps around the block to get my 10,000. Luckily for me, I got a lot of stairs in my house, so they count for quite a bit. So
yeah, nice.
Little micro steps. That's really the key. Don't overcommit. We want a long-term goal, but we want it to be within reach. I like to think of an analysis where if we've got an elastic band, if we just stretch the elastic band a little bit, it never goes back to the same size that it was previously. But if we try to overstretch it first go, then chances are we're going to snap it and it'll hurt. But by doing that a little bit, we'll actually get to that full stretch later on. But it takes, I guess, regular and consistent work to get there.
Well, it's just like what you would do with your programs. I'm sure every single person coming into your program is like, I want to be a multimillionaire. I want to do it by the end of this year, etc. Okay, great goal to have. But is that realistic based on where you are? Are you doing this as like a side thing or is it full time? Let's just focus on that first deal. Let's just do that first. Let's learn from that. Now let's do another deal. Okay, are they coming faster now? Like forget about just focus on the things that you can control, do the work, and just focus on getting that right and then move on to the next thing. And it doesn't matter which element of life that you're in. If you just hope, I hope I have $1 million in super at the end. Well, are you actually putting more into super? Are you consistently saving more money and building those wealth strategies? Or are you just hoping for it and buying a TATS ticket every week? You've got to find those things that you can control and work at your pace, but also challenge yourself. I think one of the keys for both of us, I mean, we've had a lot of success in life, is to not settle, right? And you just say, well, I don't really have to do this, but because we know who we are, of course I can't stop, because it's just part of who we are, to keep on stretching and keep on growing and never settling. And it's not like you're not happy with where you are, but it's like the growth of you is just like, I've got to go for that next step, and I've got to go to that next step.
So my personal goal for me is just to be a better version of myself every single day. And some days I get that right, and some days I get it wrong. But if I can be better than I was yesterday, then eventually I have no choice but to move forward in life. And
That's
and
right.
and if I slip backwards one day and I don't actually achieve it, that's okay. That's a mistake, right? But if I do it 2 days in a row, then that's the start of a new habit. And so I need to make sure that every day, if I make a mistake, I get back on the horse and I become a better version again every day.
That's right. I think I start the same day with that intention. The focus is, what can I do today that makes me better than yesterday? Whether that's in business, as a person, as a human, as a dad, just making sure that I do better. And there are things that just come out of the blue, which can be like emergencies or just things that throw you off for whatever reason. And that's okay. You learn from it, you grow through it, but at least you started the day with that intention of, what can I control? And I think that people often have like an all or nothing type mentality when it comes to your health and wellness, for instance, and they say they have a bad weekend with food or something. So, oh, that's it, I'm out forever. It's like, you know what? The sun comes up tomorrow. Start again. Just start from that next meal. And it's like anything in life. Success is not a straight line. It's like a squiggly line. It goes backwards and all over the place. But if you stay the course on focus on those things that you can control and those little micro things we talked about, then you become a lot more mentally tough and resilient in knowing that it doesn't matter what comes my way, I'm still going to find a way forward.
Yeah, absolutely. But with that in mind, though, it's still important that we have our big vision goals as to where we want to get to, but we break them down into small bite-sized steps that are achievable. And those little small bite-sized steps become milestones along the way to measure that we're actually getting where we want to go. So for me, I always start with the end in mind. What do I actually want to achieve? And that might be in a 5-year or a 10-year horizon. And then I break that down into the small steps to go, well, what do I need to do today to move me in that direction?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, I tend to focus, longest is probably 3 years for me. And I think about, okay, where am I going to be in 3 years' time? What does that mean? If I keep the rate of growth that I'm going now, what's that going to look like? And you can only imagine that, because you don't really know in 3 years' time. If I'm growing, like we talk about AI, for instance, I'm using AI a lot, multiple times a day, to grow me as a person, right? It's making me become a better person, because I'm asking a lot of questions about how do I grow as a person based on what it knows about me. And so then what I'm doing is breaking down those longer term goals back down to, what do I need to do this week? What do I need to do tomorrow? But you're absolutely spot on. If you don't have that, well, what am I aiming for? It's like we're getting in the car and we're just driving. We're just, I don't know, let's just go anywhere. But if you really want to get to, so I'm in Melbourne, if I want to get to Port Douglas, if I turn out and I turn left and just keep driving left all the time, well, I'll probably end up in Perth closer with that approach than I will ending up in Port Douglas. So you must have a very clear focus on what you're aiming for. And I think if you've got to have the right coach around you to say, hang on, Rob, what you're doing. Like, I can sit down with somebody for 3 minutes and I will tell them why they're not being successful, and they can't work it out. And say, I've been doing all of these different things to do this. And in 3 minutes, I can tell you exactly why you're not getting the result that you want. And say, how? I don't know what I'm doing. And I'll say, it's, these 3-4 things. I said, we just do these things and you'll change. You'll get a better outcome. So you need the coach. You need the energy to be able to, have the continuous drive every day. You've got to have that focus on, that bigger goal, but you also need the ability to be able to break it down into those small pieces, because some people just become overwhelmed by, I want the $1 million, I want the $1 million, I want the $1 million. Well, okay, great. That's not just going to come. You got to break it down into actions.
Yeah. So you gave the analogy understanding where you want to go. If we look at a GPS, right? We don't say I want to go to Brisbane. What we say is I want to go to this specific address in Brisbane, or this street number, this street name, right? But a GPS, not only does it need to know exactly where it wants to go, it also needs to know where it is right now.
Yeah.
And so only by understanding the two can you actually map out a path. And if you constantly keep track of where am I on that journey, then if you go off path, you can recalculate. Even if you go in the wrong direction, you can recalculate and bring yourself back on path. And that, I think that's something that we fail to do often enough, is to say, well, how did I go? Where am I at? Did that take me in the direction that I want to go? I coined an expression a long time ago, so you can quote me on this one. If you don't know where you're going, then every bus will take you there. And you don't realize that you don't know. You get on the bus and you think, yeah, this is going to be great. And then you get to the destination and you go, actually, this isn't what I wanted at all. And, bus didn't do anything wrong. We didn't think about what bus we wanted to get on in the first place. So all we want to do is go in the direction that we're heading, folks. And then we can recalculate as we go.
That's right.
There you go.
It's a bit like the soccer, or like a sporting analogy. If you just keep moving the ball down the field, at some point an opportunity will come up where you've got a more chance of getting it in the goals. But if you're not moving forward, and sometimes it means you've got to go back to move forwards, right? They pass it back so they can get a better strategy and all that kind of stuff. But the goal is always in mind. We've got to get it down the other end.
Now, for you, so we've been talking, I guess, a little bit about the mental side, but for you take a more holistic approach, and it's, I guess the mental side, the physical side, I guess, and a whole bunch of other things. Give us a little bit of a rounding about how you approach things.
So my approach is the foundation to any success that I want, or what I help with my clients, comes from one key foundation, and that is by making sure that you put your health and your wellness, your fitness, however you language that, as your number one priority in life, ahead of family, ahead of business, wealth, etc. Because if you have zero health, you're dead, and none of anything that sits above that matters, because you're not here to worry about it. So I go the reverse and say, well, if you make it your number one priority and you are the healthiest you can be, you will also have the most energy, you'll have the most focus, vibrancy, and everything that sits above that will be better. Like your relationships will be better, you'll make better decisions, you'll be better in your career, your business, relationships with your children, all of that will just naturally be better. So for me, that comes back to this is the way I work. Every single person listening to this should be doing this. You should be doing strength training. You should be doing it 3 times a week, really. Doing some cardio work. Me, I hate doing the HIIT training, the sweaty stuff. I hate swimming, all that sort of thing. I just go out and walk, not power walking, anything like that. I just get out and walk. So I like the fresh air and everything. We should be making sure that we're focusing a lot on our nutrition, getting, highly nutritious foods. And I want you to think about it feeding your brain. Forget about like the byproduct of how your body looks and everything is exactly that, a byproduct of the good work, the daily habits that you're putting in place. So I work on 5 to 6 highly nutritious meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and some snacks. Drinking, well, like I said, as much water as you can. I drink 3 liters of water a day, but the average human about 2.5, 2.6 liters of water a day. Making sure that I continue to grow myself as well. And that means I'm focusing on something that is going to grow my skills. I do both things. I look at a particular skill that I want to grow today. And then at nighttime, I look at what's a personal growth aspect that I want to achieve for me. Because if I'm growing, then I'm getting better. If I'm staying the same, at some point, you're going to go like this before you go down. You'll never accidentally go up without just accidentally. It requires change and purposeful action. So I want to make sure that I'm achieving that. So for me, it really comes down to getting people to very clearly and deeply articulate what you want your health to look like. And I say, don't just think about medical tests and that kind of stuff. Think about strength. Think about being pain-free. Think about being happy. Think about sleeping well. Think about any scan that you could have from a doctor that comes back clear. I want you to think about focus as well. Are you focused? What's your energy like? Get more energy. And are you continuously growing, and what's your work ethic like? And you'll find that life just gets better. I have a really nice analogy for this. Let's say that you've got a cup of water in the middle of the table, and that glass, if you like, represents your health and wellness. And imagine every other thing that you want to achieve in your life that's great is sitting around that. Okay. Now, what happens if your glass is empty? So your health is empty, well, you're dead. You put a little bit in there, and what happens through the day? Well, it gets sucked out through doing all the things that we're giving ourselves to people. But now let's just keep continuously pouring water into that. At some point, it gets to the top. Then what happens? It overflows, and it overflows into all those other areas of your life, right? And I really like that because people can visualize what that looks like, but that's the reality. Your health improves, energy, your focus, your happiness, everything improves, and it then spills over into every other aspect of your life. I say to people, maybe an easy way, because you talk about energy, say, what would it be like, Rob, if I gave you 20% more energy? So, oh, that sounds nice, but I don't know what that feels like because you're used to living here, right? But then I say, well, imagine if you took 20% more energy into the bedroom. Could you imagine what that looks like? And people normally smile and say, oh, yeah, that'd mean whatever they make up for themselves.
Then I'd sleep twice as fast, mate.
Maybe. But yeah, that's my holistic approach to it. And it has changed over time. When I first stepped into a gym 37 years ago, it was like, I wanted to get big. I wanted to get bigger muscles. I wanted to feel good about myself. I did not think about health. I knew it wasn't unhealthy what I was doing, but I didn't think about it because I was 20.
Yeah, and using your same analogy, the opposite is true. If you don't put stuff in, then the water starts to dehydrate, the dust starts to settle, the water goes stale, and you're slowly going to have less and less energy to go into things. So, really good analogy, mate. Thank you. I guess from that side, routine, food, what you're fueling yourself, all super important in the routine that you actually put together. I know whilst I'm mentally strong and that sort of thing, I know that there are elements that I can improve on in that regard myself. So there's a few tips and tricks that I'm picking up from this myself. So thank you. Now, with regards to that, I guess we're really here, to talk about, some mental toughness. That was really the theme of the day. How do we, given that we've got the energy to deal with things, mental toughness, we all face obstacles all day, every day. Some of them we can deal with, some of them we can't. What's the big theme in how to best deal with a challenging situation that actually comes up?
I think it's practice. Like any skill that we have, it's practice, right? Like any tough situation that we have, if we avoid every tough situation that comes into our life and we just say, oh, like, can I outsource that? Can someone else deal with that? Then there's no opportunity for us to get stronger. I liken it to like being in the gym. If you're in the gym and you want to change your body, what has to happen? You have to hurt. Right? You have to, I'm not like injury hurt. I mean, like you've got to get, if you're working your biceps, you've got to get that muscle burn. If you're working your chest, it has to burn. If you're working your legs and you want to change them, it has to hurt. It has to burn. It's a lactic acid burn. And that's what those of us have been training for a long time. That's what we train for. We've got to have that. Now, if I go into the gym and I don't want to feel that pain, I can't expect to change. And so that's why I love the analogy of what we do in the gym and transform in there, because you can transfer that to any other area of your life. So when it comes to mental toughness, if you're not used to being uncomfortable and being able to deal with things, then you don't learn to develop that emotional muscle to say, actually, do you know what? I'm okay. Let's face it, most of the things that we get challenged with as part of mental toughness are normally the way that we absorb it. We take it personally. It's like you say something to me, it triggers an emotion either in my heart, my gut, my head that, oh, Rob's being mean to me. Why is he being so mean? And then you make up a story about that based on your values and beliefs, your environment, and so forth, and you'll feel really sad or otherwise as a part of that. Now, what we want to get to is a place where we say, okay, Robb's made an interesting observation there. I can hear that. But yeah, I can hear that that's really about him maybe airing some frustration. Maybe something's going on for him at home or in his life at the moment. I'm not going to take that personally because I know Robb's a good person and he wouldn't have meant that in a harmful way. And it's just an observation. But that only comes through life experience and dealing with people and building your own self-confidence and self-image, I think is a good one. So ironically, for me, my greatest weakness when I was a young adult was mental toughness. I was I'm a shorter man. I'm only 5'5", 165 centimeters, depending on where you are in the world. And I was bullied as a kid. I was an easy target. And that had a very big impact on my own self-image. I didn't have friends. I wasn't particularly smart at school. Every girl I asked out till I was 23 said no. I didn't have a strong self-image. I thought there was something wrong with me. When I started being at an age of 18 where I could go out, and I'd go out with people, like we'd go to nightclubs, they were smoking, they were drinking, getting drunk and stuff. And I thought there was something wrong with me. One, because they told me there's something wrong with you, that you're not enjoying this stuff. So I didn't smoke, I didn't drink, I didn't want to do those things. And I hated being in that environment. But I made it wrong about myself, that there's something wrong about me because I don't enjoy that type of environment. I just realized I was hanging out with the wrong people. And I get it now. And people are envious now of my health because of, the decisions that I've made. But that took a long time, in some ways decades, for me to build my self-image and knowing that actually I'm a really good man as to who I am and where I put my daily focus now. People are envious at how do I become so consistent and achieve so much. And it's only come through that practice and going through a lot of crappy stuff. Like, so much crappy stuff happens to good people. And what you and I were talking about earlier off air was, it's not what happens to you, but the definition that you come up with what it means to you, that will really define how you go on into your life and use it. And so I lost my daughter when she was 15, like about 18 months ago. Well, it's coming up to 2 years next month. And I could have chosen to take a different pathway in my life and feel like it's all over and everything. But I've got another daughter that I need to be strong for her and show her the way forward, and be able to find something of my daughter's legacy to have a greater impact for others. I could turn to drugs, alcohol, whatever, but I chose not to, because I know that that's not me, and that would not make Liv, my daughter who passed, proud. And I just had to come up with a greater definition for why she's not here. It doesn't make sense on some levels, like take me instead, leave her here. But that's not the case of it. So I need to come up with a greater definition of that. So I think, that's a long way to answer. It's a complex question, but I think practicing, putting yourself in uncomfortable positions, knowing that most of the stuff that you feel, and people say, it's not going to be personal, so don't take it personally. A lot of the stuff that people put on you is about their limitations and their weaknesses and where their emotional availability is in life. And you just keep working on you and strengthening you. I think doubling down on your values and beliefs. I think they're getting weaker as we get older, and I'm very, very, very strong on my values and beliefs, and I will never do anything illegal. I will never drink. I will never smoke. I will never gamble. I will never do those disempowering behaviors. I honor loyalty. I honor integrity. I honor ethical behavior, morality. And if people don't match that, then it doesn't matter. I won't have a conversation with you, but you're not going to get into my inner circle. Because I know that that's the core to who I am. And people either like that or they don't like that. I get often criticized by people that the way that I live my life. It's like, okay, that's fine. Do you want to map it out on a whiteboard as to my successes versus your successes?
Yeah. Someone else's opinion of me is none of my business.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. You make some really good points in there. There's probably 2 or 3 that I'd love to drill down into. So I guess there was how you receive information that people actually give you. and the meanings that we give it. So from that side, whatever someone has said to you, I guess the words that they've said may not have necessarily been delivered in the most appropriate way, but you've got to look at, I guess, the meaning that was put behind it. Now, we give it our own personal meaning, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that that was the meaning the person was intending to deliver. And I think a lot of the time we just, I guess, put our meaning on. We don't check in with the other person to go, hey, that came across wrong. Is that what you meant? We don't give them the benefit of the doubt of the curiosity of, hey, did you deliver that well? Because I'll admit, sometimes I say things spur of the moment and it doesn't come out the right way. That doesn't mean I was intending harm, but sometimes we just assume harm, and then that informs our next action, which then can easily blow things up. So the first thing I'd say is have curiosity about the other person, and did that really mean what I think it meant?
And I think also the way that we communicate now, we're not usually having this interaction like we're having right here, right? It's like send a text. How did you go with this? Or, what's the status of that? And you think, oh, that's a bit rude. Like, I've been working really hard, whatever, but there's no malice mentioned about, or maybe it's accidental uppercasing. Heaven forbid, oh, they're shouting at me. What have I done? Or it's, the way that something comes across, or people post stuff on social media. Oh, how come Rob didn't love heart my post? I just mentioned him, or, something like that. Like all this rubbish, as opposed to, I just pick up the phone, I'll send a voice memo or something.
So text is only 10% of communication style. So there's the tonality, there's the delivery of it itself. There's the body language that sits behind it. So whenever you're getting something via text, if it doesn't receive well, I always pick up the phone, and usually I'll pick up the phone before I send a text. I don't like text at all, but I'm old. So I'm allowed to hide behind that.
Well, my daughter, she's about to turn 20, and she uses Snapchat continuously.
So not only is it interpreted as pure text, but then it disappears, and so then people imagine what it said before because they forgot.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I didn't see that. What did you say again? Yeah.
Anyway, so that, I guess, there's that side, but the meaning we give it, that's probably the other. So the fact of anything happening to us, whether it's what somebody said, whether it's I guess an incident, an accident, or whatever, the fact of the matter, two of us seeing the exact same thing can give it two completely different meanings.
Yep.
And that in itself is something that's interesting to explore. So give us some insights into that.
Well, I was on a call last night, actually. I've been invited to speak at an event coming up, and I was meeting some of the other speakers on a virtual call. And one of the speakers said how terrified they were of speaking at this event. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Again, it was another weakness of mine when I was a kid, to now it's like, put me in front of 1 billion people. I can speak. That's fine. So I'm not nervous about it. I'm excited about it. So this guy's terrified, and I'm excited about it. Exactly the same event. It's just two different people and how we language it. So why are we languaging it differently? Again, coming back to before about resilience and mental toughness. One of the reasons for starting my 2 podcasts, so I've done almost 4, I think by next week I'll have done 4,000 combined episodes, was I wanted to learn how to speak better and stop using like the filler words, and be able to have a pause like this and feel comfortable about continuing without getting to a point saying, using those filler type words. And so I thought, well, how do I fix that? Why don't I practice? Let me start a podcast and do 1 a day, and why don't I do 2 a day now? And then one of my other weaknesses was not being able to ask questions and speak to people and start conversations. So I thought, well, why don't I get guests on the show and not prepare fully? So then it forces me to listen. Like, I don't have any notes in front of me here. It's like, how do I actively listen to exactly what it is that you're saying and become, like you mentioned the word before, become really curious about what it is. So if I'm interviewing you, I want to become really curious about just wanting to know what I want to know. I don't care what anyone else wants to know. It's like, what do I want to know about you and your success, because you're really successful at what you do. So I want to dig into that and see where there's that like-mindedness and so forth. So yeah, that's what I like. I don't know, I got a little bit off topic there. What was your
That's
question?
okay. I've put the name of one of your
Yeah.
podcasts. I guess given the theme today, the Mental Toughness and Body Show, you can find that on pretty much all of your
Yep.
podcasting channels. So no matter where you look. And in that process, mate, I guess you've talked about some of your own toughness, your own resiliency, but you've also both met and interviewed a whole bunch of high profile and high successful people. Just give us some insights into some of the people that you've come across on your journey, whether they've been on your show or just you've crossed in life.
I just met. Yeah. So I do have a little bit of obsession with success and understanding across any field, to be honest, about how they've become the best in their field. So as a kid, the only people that I used to hear that said that they loved what they did were sports people, like your tennis players and that kind of stuff. And it's like, man, I'm never going to be one of those. So who else can I tap into? So we can start, it depends on your perception, I suppose, but I've met Barack Obama, and had a conversation with him, and then sat in the audience to listen to him being interviewed. I've met Richard Branson. I've met a whole bunch of Hollywood celebrities. I interviewed Brooke Shields. I've met Mel Gibson, Michael Douglas, Jillian Michaels, celebrity fitness trainer, a bunch of Olympic gold medalists. I've met some very high net wealth people, like we're talking hundreds of millions of dollars, billionaire empire builders as well. And so what I like to really understand is how they live their life, and what are the clues that they leave that I can use in my own life, and also take into my coaching life as well to teach other people. And so there's a few things that really stand out for me. One is the time that they start their day. They normally start, it doesn't matter who they are. They all have very, very strong and rigid routines for success, all of them. They start anywhere between 4 to 6 a.m. Now, I was at the time when I went back 5 years, I was probably getting up around 6:30, 7 a.m. It's like, man, I need to change that. So I started getting up at 20 past 4 and getting more done. So they start early in the morning. They have exercise as part of one of their first things, and they all do it a little bit differently, but they value strength work. They value cardio. They also value high nutritional food, supplementation, that kind of stuff into their daily regime. Some do it very rigidly. Some are just a little bit, more focused on perhaps balance in their life and doing better. They all have very big structures in terms of their day and what that looks like, and when they do certain things. So doing the hardest things first thing in the morning, perhaps the creative things first thing in the morning. Spending a lot of time building relationships, nurturing relationships is another big element. And they all have some underlying philosophies of coaching. They all get coaching. Even, who did I speak to just recently? Brian Austin Green. So he's around so I'm 56. He's around my age. I think he's a little bit younger. He's a guy out of 90210. Remember that show? And
so I remember it being on. I was never a fan.
Yeah, I didn't watch a lot of it, but you remember the theme music, which I could not sing right now, but you'd remember it if it came on. And so he was talking, even he's been in like hundreds of different things, and he says he still works with coaches now. And every person, even Martin Kove, who played the bad guy out of the Karate Kid and in Cobra Kai, he's the owner of the Cobra Kai dojo. He still gets coaching, and he's 78. And so they all value the power of coaching. They all have a growth mindset, like we were talking about before. They want to be better. And this is people that they've got hundreds of millions of dollars. They've got so much fame and success, but they still want to grow. Another one is impact. They all want to have an impact in their way, whatever that looks like for them, where it's philanthropic work, whether it's helping their children elevate in like acting or, whatever it is. But they all have a much greater vision beyond themselves. And I think that's really powerful. I mean, gee, I could go on, but I mean, they're probably the key points that I think we can all relate to. And not one of them, this is an interesting point about billionaires. Not one billionaire that I have spoken to has set out to be a billionaire. And believe it or not, what it came down to is right moment, right opportunity, and one more thing, luck.
Well, luck is one of those things that I think it's where opportunity presents itself to preparation. So if you have put the hard work in, then you will see the opportunity and you can take advantage of that.
Yeah.
The opportunity is always there, but a lot of the times we don't recognize the opportunity because we haven't put the hard work in.
Yeah.
So
That's so true. That is so
the
true.
number of times that somebody tells me I'm lucky, but they don't see the 37 years of work that I've done
Yeah.
to get myself in a position to actually recognize that opportunity. So it does take hard work and it does take mental toughness to get yourself in a position to see that opportunity and then take advantage. And action would be the other thing. So seeing the opportunity is one thing, but doing something about it is probably the I guess the final one.
If I was to reverse engineer where I am now, the thing that has taken me to see the point of opportunity, because you can be standing right on the doorstep of opportunity and not see it. And the reason that I've seen it is I've got this continuous growth mindset. I have to grow every single day, 7 days a week. I used to say, oh, well, it's the weekend. I've worked really hard, whatever that means. I need to have the weekend. I need to have the weekend off, Rob. I need to have 2 holidays a year because there's 4 weeks of leave there and I need to do it. Now, I haven't been on a holiday since 2018. And that holiday was to write my book. It felt like a holiday to me because I have this continuous growth mindset. Now, I have a full life. I love my life. I don't need a break from work because it's not work, but I have to ensure that I grow every day. If I do not tick that box every day to work on something, it could be 10 or 15 minutes, but I work on something every day to grow myself. And then going to what you just said, that has enabled me to see where there's an opportunity. And now, because of the growth, I say, okay, do I want to say yes to that or I say no? And now I say no to more things than I say yes to because there's more and more people that want a piece of me, as you would find too. The more successful you become, it's like moving up this pyramid to success. There's less people that can relate to you the higher you go up. But more and more people want a piece of you for some reason. So I say no to more things now, but you only recognize it because of the growth and how you continue to improve.
Yeah, absolutely. So, mate, the other thing, when we had our, I guess, pre-chat, you kind of mentioned they all had a daily routine. Now, every single one of us, whether we do it by design or not, we tend to have a daily routine. Quite often we get up and we just do the same thing in the same order every single day. But it's about having, I guess, a deliberate intent with regards to that daily routine. Now, for me personally, I'll get up, I'll get my morning coffee, I'll sit on my front deck, I'll take in the world. I've got a beautiful view on my front deck. And then I start to map out my intentions for the day. I'll start to prioritize what that looks like. I'll talk to my partner and understand her intentions and see what I can do to support her as she goes. And at the end of the day, we then review our day and go, how did that go? Did I do the thing that I intended to do? And what can I actually learn from that? And then tomorrow I'll repeat that cycle. In talking to you, yours is similar, but slightly different order and a lot more detailed. So a lot more detailed. Give us some insights into your daily routine. And even if we only got half of this, folks, even if we got half of this, it is probably a step further, I guess, on your journey than where you are today.
Yeah, I think if it is very detailed, but it hasn't always looked like this either. So don't think, oh, wow, how do I go from not doing that to doing what I'm doing? I just always say, try and be the best version of you and use, say, people like the 2 Robs here to inspire you and aspire you to be a greater version of you. But mine starts on a Sunday. So every single, and it goes back to what you said earlier. So where you can kind of see the map of the world here in the corner here on my wall. And I think, oh, where am I going? Because that will then determine, I reverse engineer the success. It's like, if I want to get there, all right, that means I've got to do this. It means I need to do this daily. So every Sunday, I love my Sundays. I sit down for at least 90 minutes and I review the week that was. And I just I've got an iPhone. I use Apple Notes and I create a list of hollow bullet points that I want to achieve through the week. And I tick them off as I go through the week. And so when I get to Sunday, I quickly review the ones I've done and say, yeah, good job. All right, delete. Now, fresh week. What is the challenge or challenges that I want to achieve that are transformational for me for this next week? Now, I talk about transactional versus transformational. Transactional is do the shopping, do the housework, mow the lawns, like send an email, that kind of stuff. The transformational things are about marketing, or maybe it's around changing something with my health and wellness, or bigger things, longer term things that are working towards those goals, not the transactional stuff. So then I will then take those things on a Sunday and I will then look at I just use Google Calendar and I block out time to work on the key things that I want to. So then when it comes to each day, the night before, I do exactly what you do, Rob, and I analyze the day and I look at, okay, gee, did I do as well on getting the things done that I wanted to, or did I not? And what can I do better tomorrow? And so then I'll look at my calendar for tomorrow and say, what have I got blocked in? So like if I use today as an example, it's very busy. I'm not going to get transformational things done today until tonight when I work on my personal growth. And so everything else is locked in with coaching sessions, interviews, and media. So there's that part of it. And then I'll then look at, okay, I need to block out time for tomorrow for this task. Otherwise I'll get to Sunday, which is coming around pretty quickly, that I won't get this done. So I need to block out the time. And then I just repeat that cycle on the start of the day, so that as soon as I get up, I know exactly what it is that I'm working on. I fuel myself first thing. I'll have breakfast first thing. I'll make sure that I'll eat well throughout the day, my 5 or 6 meals throughout the day, meeting my commitment. I'm checking in. I'm using AI. I just use ChatGPT, the paid version, to help keep me on track. It knows me based on everything that I've been doing with it over the last year or so. And I just ask creative questions. How can I get more done today? This is what I need to get done. When's the best time block for me to do that? What should I do now? I finished it early. What do you think I should do? That kind of stuff. And I'm just playing with it to see, how do I get more out of myself? Being faster, better, more efficient in what it is that I do. So how do I speed up the growth cycle for me, which means better results for everybody?
Very good, mate. Mate, it's been I guess, a very enjoyable chat. Hoping that everybody listening got something out of it. Have you got any parting words of wisdom? Like, if you could just have one thing that somebody took away from this, what would that one thing be?
So the best advice I've ever had is stop talking about it and get it done. Right? We spend so much of our time procrastinating. I say to people, if your screen right now is the change, then you're sitting on this side of the change. Like, should I go all in on, say, your programs, Rob? Am I really going to get the result that I want? You're on here, and now you're in it. This is what we call the crap. You're going through this hard work, etc. It's painful. It's going to hurt. It's going to be harder than you ever thought it was going to be. But guess what? On this side of it, there will be so much reward and so much growth and so much change that you could ever possibly conceive. But the bad news is you've got to go through this crap. But the good news is you've got to go through the crap. The bad news is you don't know how long the crap's going to last, but it's going to last, and it's going to last as long as the universe says it's going to last. But you have to go through it. So my thing is, step into the crap as soon as you can, because the faster you can learn to move through that, which is the resilience and the mental toughness and doing the foundational things that I said, improve your health, stay focused, improve your work ethic, work 7 days a week on what it is that you want. We're not talking 24/7, but work 7 days a week, because not one of these successful people I was talking about before has a day off. They all work. Success has no days off. So just keep pushing, keep pushing. You'll get through this, and all the rewards are over here, and you'll just want to keep climbing.
There you go. So my one thing would be, you can never avoid problems. what you want is you want the quality of your problem to be better. So as you solve one problem, you move on to a higher quality problem.
Yep.
If I look at the property development journey that somebody goes on, the very first problem that they have is, I don't know what strategy to do. The next one is, well, I don't know where to learn that. Then, I solve that problem and go, well, I don't know where to find that deal. Then you find the deal. You don't know. I don't have the cash to run the deal. Then you solve that problem, and eventually the problem becomes, I don't know how to spend the cash, right? And if you can improve the quality of your problem, that is the purpose of life, folks. So start with the end in mind. Know where you want to get to. What is the thing today that I can solve to get me onto the next highest quality problem to move me in the direction that I want to get to? So that's my tip of the day, folks.
Well done. Well said. Couldn't agree more.
That said, folks, Rob, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on today. For everyone that's actually watching this, just to let you know, not only do we run these Sunday sessions, but we also run networking events all the way around the country. You can turn up to these physically. You can also turn up to them virtually. We run 45 events a year. We run them in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, and Adelaide. And soon we're coming for you, Perth. We'll be there very, very soon. So please make sure, click on the link below and come to one of our events. We would actually love to see you there. In the meantime, mate, it's been an absolute pleasure, and hopefully I can get you to come to one of our shows next time I'm in Perth.
Yeah, absolutely. In Perth, I'm not in Perth, though.
Oh, sorry, not Perth, in Melbourne, I should say.
If you want to pay for my flight to Perth, no problem. In Melbourne.
We'll come to the Melbourne one. All good.
I will, but thank you for all the work that you're doing and the lives that you're changing as well through the work that you do, because it's, we need it, and you're making a real impact in this country. So well done.
Thank you, Rob. Till then, folks, bye for now.